Hi, my name's Kathy Millett, and this week we're looking at how to add rust, the heavy rust or the lighter rust that you might get on a building. Rust has so many colours, it's worth looking at what exact colour do you want. And we're going to put it onto this models around the chimneys and the guttering, which might be exposed to the elements and have rusted. So next up, I want to use pigments as rust. So I've got a little bit of, this is just actually isopropyl alcohol, it's 99%, so it's very strong. And I've got a thin brush, which is here. And I could use a slightly thicker brush, but I want to use loads of different ones. So I've got 4 colours. This one is one of the rusts, track rust or something, the label's fallen off. It's quite a dark magenta-y type, and I'm going to start with that one first because I like to start with the darker one. So I'm just going to put a bit of isopropyl and a bit of rust. I'm just going to blob it on here, and it will just bounce around. I'm going to put it on the mounting plate, especially on the surface. I'm just going to put a little bit just down here, but not too much. And you can choose whether you want to streak it wet or streak it dry. I normally streak it dry. And then the same on this one. Okay, so the next thing is to use a slightly different colour, and I tend to get from dark to light. Now, rust will lighten with age, and you don't need to totally cover the entire lot with each colour. The top will presumably be the rustiest bit because it's the wettest, it's where the water will sit. And actually at this point you want to start making it slightly spudgy, or you're just over covering everything you've just put on beneath. So that was that one. We've got standard rust, getting a bit brighter still. Here we go. Just make that a little bit thinner. Concentrating down there. There'll always be some bits that just don't rust, a little bit of patchy paint still. And then the final brightest rust. I probably won't put too much of that on here. It's useful in other places. I thought I'd already got one of these open. I probably have. But let's open this one as it's here. So this is the really bright orange, and it's just a tad too bright for much use, but it's still great. So just catch any bits that are looking a bit too still. Now, what I like about this is it dries with a bit of a texture and a bit chalky. Just a little bit on. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to put that to rinse. What I'm going to do now is add the down streaks where this would have run over time. If it's this rusty, the rain would have run down and just washed the rust and stained whatever it's sitting next to. And I'll probably use, actually I normally use this one, just track dirt, because it's the darkest. And I just think generally the colour that runs is generally slightly darker. So you don't need a lot, and I'm using a fine brush. And I'm just going to streak down from here. Now you don't want to overdo it, or it can become a sort of pastiche of what you see in reality. So not too much. I would even say that's too much. And if you put too much on, you know, the good old-fashioned cotton bud is great for just smoothing out and pulling it off. Ooh, I've just streaked a bit of my paint down. So there we go. And on this one, just there we go. There we go, so a few little bits of rust just coming down. So there we go, done. So now we need to rust up our drain pipes. And you remember I had a small amount of rust and I put it into a solution last time. Well, I'm going to do that again, but much more dilutely. So there's actually probably enough rust in there. It's mostly rail rust, P238. And I could use all sorts of things to suspend this. and I tend to use IPA because it's the easiest. And just to give it a bit more dark, I've got some light IPA solution here, which is it's India ink and IPA. It's only got about 1 teaspoon in a pint, so it's a bit lighter. And I'm just going to put that in, and then it's a bit darker. So when it dries even darker, because I don't want this to be OTT on these, but I need to knock them back a little. So I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to use my wet brush, and I'm just going to go and check how much. Yeah, so there's sort of a solution now. If you see it, if you put it on here, you can see that it's brown. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm just going to run this along. The other thing I want to do is just put a little splodge around the bottom, just to tighten a little bit. So here's the final result on our rust. You can see the heavy rust on the chimneys and the lighter rust that we've put onto all of our guttering and downpipes.
This week, the mini Cathys have a visitation.
What the heck is that? Hologram. I know. That's what I know. Message from space. Like kind of beamed in somehow, appeared like a hologram.
Anyway, I've got 2 minutes, they said, at most, to tell you that I am coming home next week. I've been stuck on an alien planet. I'll tell you next week how I got there. I've been on a spaceship. That's been really exciting. And loads of long story short.
Anyway,
Back next week. See you guys. See you next week. Bye.
soon. They're going to be here soon. Can't wait. I have to come back. It's going to be so exciting.
Well, let's hope that Miss Cathy makes it back next week for the end of this exciting adventure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, subscribe to me on YouTube. Alternatively, like me on Facebook, Cathy Millett Modelling, or on my website, cathymillett.co.uk.